Hi guys, hi girls. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about my bumpy first startup's bumpy founder experience from inception to exit. And some of the things that I would suggest you learn and not repeat some of the mistakes I did. Looking back, it's been maybe a year since I sold my first startup. I realized I didn't enjoy the journey. I was intense, I was super stressed, I was pushing myself super hard, I was pushing my team, and I think you should enjoy the process. You never know what's the outcome. You can never really, so many things are out of your control, so you better enjoy the process as opposed to wishing for the really shining finish line. But the story starts some 7 years ago when I was climbing the career ladder at Deloitte, and I had my second kid born. I thought, I have this itch, I want to build a business of my own, something international, and I thought it's now or never. Given my career path, my second kid was just born, and I was helping my school raise alumni donations. It was going excellent. We were doing it all digitally, and I thought, I'm gonna do this. This is the idea. The startup that I built has helped schools like Georgetown, Westpoint, UC Berkely, London Business School, Oxford, Cambridge, and the like raise donations from alumni. And obviously, me having a consulting background, corporate finance background, I did some good, proper calculations on business projections, which told me that, okay, by the end of the year, I should be cash flow positive. So I have some cash saved, so I should be fine. By the end of the year, will be no effect on the family budget. That didn't turn out that well. This is the graph I kept showing every month to my team. I was telling, obviously there's no trend, but we better get some clients. So by the end of the year, the pressure is mounting, and I was feeling like maybe I was better off consulting others, consulting other companies how to do business instead of doing mine. Clearly, I was better at that. So the feeling starts creeping in. Am I really a good entrepreneur? Am I a good product builder? Somehow the relentlessness paid off. I was traveling some 4 times or 5 flights to Oxford, back and forth, without any clients, without them knowing me, without any case studies to prove. Somehow, eventually, they signed up and started using it. So that was our first big break. We were gonna crush it. This was amazing. And what a name, right? So that was the beginning. But then I realized, okay, there's actually no market in Europe. As I didn't realize that none of the universities in Europe, except from a handful, like Oxford, don't really care about alumni donations. So they wouldn't pay for a software that helps them with alumni donations. So there's my lesson learned, number 1. Do your freaking market research before you quit your job. Don't do it like me. But I have this team, I have this client, I have to make the best out of it. So where is the market? The market is in the States. That's where the alumni donations are. But how do you sell there? You have to have someone on the ground, someone who can talk weather, who can talk what was happening on the last game. It was clearly not me, so we have to hire someone local, someone on the ground. What do you need to hire someone local? You need money, so I needed to fundraise. So I went fundraising. I approached some dozen investors. All of them were saying, no, there's no steep growth curve. There's no big market. I don't know that my university would ever use this, and it's not a scalable business. So I was thinking, okay, these guys clearly know something more about me. I have never done really a startup before. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm a pretty crappy entrepreneur. Why did I ever start this? Somehow, half-assing this fundraising process, so through immense stress, I managed to get 150K closed. And I managed then to hire our first US salesperson. And then I set my sights for a top US accelerator. I applied pretty much everywhere, got rejected, and somehow eventually I got accepted into 500 startups. And that's where my journey with my family to San Francisco began. We moved there, and interesting, that's where I tried another approach to fundraising. I made another round, and I followed advice of amazing mentors there. So what they said is, you shouldn't be half-assing it. You should be either doing fundraising or not doing fundraising. And by that, in practical terms, it would mean reach out to your investors and stack your meetings next to each other. So 4 meetings of investors per day. 4 meetings per day, 4 weeks next to each other. So like non-stop having calls. And stack your or front-load meetings with shitty angels first. So because your pitch is going to be crappy, you're not going to be able to close anyway, so better use that on, as they were saying, shitty angels to just practice. Now that you have practiced, go out to the better angels that you've seen, and you'll have a better pitch and be better ready to the questions that will be coming your way. And the other is just use email automation. Use email templates. I had like sequence of 6 emails that were going out automatically every 3 days until I get an answer, regardless what the answer is from the investor. And then 6 more templates for every occasion, every possible scenario, how they might reply, or what is the next step, so that to streamline the whole process. That did magic, and I raised something like close to $1 million, and many of the Estonian angels were part of the cap table. And this is another tip or advice I got. In my first time that I was raising, I was thinking, okay, revenue is king. I have to make revenue. I have to show my investors how I'll be making the company revenue, how it will be growing, right? Well, that's not really a healthy way to look at it. And I should have known better, but that's what investors were actually telling me. They were asking for projections on revenue and profitability. But a really healthier way to look at the business and how good investors are looking at startup businesses is in terms of like a bingo card. What kind of risks are there for your business and for any business, and what have you already peeled away? So you might not have a really complete team, but you might have a stable team. You might have a big market. You might have a great product. But do you have a product market fit? Is it easily copied? That's fine if it's not. If it is, do you have many users? Are those users paying? Do you have unit economics in place in terms of, are you paying less than to get the customers in exchange for them paying more to you? So all of these don't have to be filled up and checked in the first round. That's fine. Most of them are not. And that's a really good way to structure the conversation and lead the conversation with investors to talk about what really matters. Yes, if you are also raising, here's a blog I did a year ago on, I reached out to all of the active Estonian angel investors who were coming in recommended by other founders, and many of them were on my cap table as well. and then ask them what is their preference, what is their ticket size. So if you are raising, this could be a good resource for you to basically add to your investor list. So I had money in the bank. Now it was time for scaling, for the big growth. I was set up office in Boston, set up a sales team there, another sales team in Riga. Did all sorts of experiments. A year passed, maybe a second year already was passing, and I was getting relentless, getting stressed, getting frustrated. What's going on? It's really, as Vicky was saying, a really stable path. Others might see it as a shitty business, but it's going to profitability, but not really the hockey stick growth that I thought investors had signed up for, and I was excited this business to turn into. There was none of it. It was really grinding, really difficult, one by one closing of deals. And me being a single founder, I felt like, okay, I'm gonna run out of energy if I can't find the magic bullet, how to grow faster. So I had a feeling that something drastic needs to be happening, needs to be done, and I made the effort to meet every single investor I had, and I had some 20 plus angel investors, and I showed what I have done, what has worked, or rather what has not worked, and what are the options. And the conclusion was that, okay, let's try an exit. Okay, let's try an exit. Well, no one was really knocking on our doors, so how do you do an exit? Luckily, I remembered there was this conversation I had at some conference where one of the industry players approached us and said, "Oh, I love what you're doing. That's so cool. Let's do something together. And by the way, our company from time to time does acquisitions. Maybe that could be the case here." So this is the email I crafted and sent out to all of our market participants. And this worked like magic. Well, probably my 9 years in mergers and acquisitions helping close deals, buy companies, sell companies. So what this had was basically, I asked around who are who knows those executives at these big market players, so some social proof. And I was saying a competitor of yours is considering joining forces or considering acquiring, which was vaguely true, right? We had a conversation like that. And I was saying we are considering that as a path, but really we are not yet sure, because we want to make sure that we find the absolute best strategic fit with a partner like that, and that's why I'm reaching out to you guys. So this was the alternative was going out and saying, "Hey, we've tried every sales experiment, nothing really worked. Would you like to acquire us?" So I clearly couldn't do that. So instead, I tried to create kind of competition out of thin air, and it worked. So I had a bidding process a few months later from a few participants in our market, and got the term sheet on the table. So due diligence started, and then, you know, for a deal to happen like this, you need to have the momentum going. You can't stop the momentum. And the problem was, I was in Riga. The company that is about to acquire us is in the States. The time zones are really hurting the momentum, because an email comes in and late at night asking, okay, what is this tax risk? What is this legal risk? What is this? What do we do with this? Probably is going to blow up the deal, and basically all of their due diligence and external experts showing that, oh, there's this risk, and blowing it out of proportion. So you have to respond super quickly to extinguish any fires before they happen. So you have this alarm sound in the morning. I put that alarm sound for every incoming email, so I would wake up every time an email arrives, and that made the trick. So that kept the momentum going. So by Christmas, I had the deal signed and closed. 2 days later, I had my pneumonia, so that was a little bit of effect on health, but I had the deal closed. So, looking back, my lesson learned was, what I've learned since exiting is just to enjoy life. Less pressure on myself, and more importantly, asking for help. I didn't know who to ask help. I didn't know I should ask for help, but as a founder, you never know. You never can be an expert of the ever-changing problems that you are facing, right? That changes every half year. So it's good to reach out and ask for help from other founders who have walked the same path. And surprisingly, you might be surprised, but many of the founders that seem super successful are secretly going through the same shit, same stress as you, and they would welcome any opportunity to share some of that. And you knowing that someone is having a really shitty time can make you feel better, as you know as well. So that gives me the chance to give you a shameless plug here. That's exactly what right now we're doing with Salto. We're connecting startups with accomplished experts who've built companies like PandaDoc, Grammarly, Rocket Internet companies, Dropbox, and the like, to help tackle growth challenges. Think of it as a premium Upwork for startups. So that's my startup journey.
Round of applause, guys. Thank you. Right, and actually we have already some questions from the audience coming. Thank you. I'm not going to lose this one this time. So how do you keep going if nothing turns out? Where do you find the motivation to keep going? Especially in your case, when you said that do the market research before you quit your daytime job, you know?
Fear of failure. I think in my case it was fear of failure. The motivation was fear of failure. It's nothing positive. It's actually super destructive. Wouldn't wish it on other founders, but as I've had honest conversations with many other founders, that's what drives many others as well. It's not a positive emotion of, oh, I'm going to succeed, this is going to get better, change the world for the better, but it's actually you putting yourself out there and fearing that you will fail, so you do everything you can to avoid that failure.
All right, thank you. And the second question that has arrived, you always have to keep balance, you always have to balance your inner feeling and advice from the investors, for example. How do you keep this balance as a young founder?
I don't think you do. I think you listen to investors, listen to other founders who you think are so awesome and know much better than you. Then you follow their advice. You see that didn't work. You see that was not the wisest advice, and you realize that many of them might not have even gone through that themselves. Maybe many of them have not built companies, don't know how it is. So you start realizing that there are not many out there who can give really proper advice. So you start to, over time, have to start believing in your own strength, in your own judgment. So you can ask for advice, but you need to have the inner confidence to just rely on yourself and realize that half of the time probably you'll be wrong, and that's fine. You just learn and fix it.
All right, and final question from me. What is ultimately the success in entrepreneurship for you?
Oh, now it's different than it was before. Now it's just the process of tinkering, figuring out things, getting to the market, hitting your head against the wall and trying again. And that's a fun, creative process. That's what should be enjoyable.
And if you're speaking about before, what's the difference or what has changed?
Oh, before I wanted, like, the same as Vicky said, some big, shiny TechCrunch headline kind of startup success story.
All right. Well, thank you. One more time, round of applause, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.